Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastination Pit Stop. Today we have a very special guest, Roberto Capodieci. He's an Italian tech innovator, deeply engaged in emerging technologies, focusing on decentralized systems and blockchain technology. He resides in Bali and conducts business from Singapore. Over the past decade, he has dedicated himself to advancing blockchain solutions. Roberto, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, before we dig into it, please tell us, how did you come to be involved in blockchain technology, and what's been your journey to actually get to where you are today?
All right, so it starts from when I was a little kid and I was passionate on communication, telecommunication particularly, but even the radio at the CB to talk to people. So I was going phone hacking, freaking what it was called. This is all the things that when first modem, the bulletin board system, FidoNet, the network were starting, I was there. And this brought me into whatever is related to several computers talking together. So the first peer-to-peer network that was at the end of everybody in effect, it was a BitTorrent. And I wanted to hack the protocol to make a decentralized file system, like an hard drive distributed among many computers. Because with BitTorrent, the files are fixed, you cannot edit them. If you edit them, they'll just change and so on and so forth. So in doing this, I was some news groups of people talking about peer-to-peer, and there's somebody was discussing to test this thing that would have been this Bitcoin, and that's where I enter. I will look at blockchain. I start running one software, one of the first version of the Bitcoin, even before those publicly available. But it wasn't doing what I wanted because it wasn't doing what I was interested in. In fact, there is the sad story that I formatted an hard drive that made 6 blocks, so there were 300 bitcoins there because they had no value, they had no meaning to me at the time. Eventually, I came back to it again, not for the financial aspect of it, but for the technical aspect of it, because the use of blockchain for cryptocurrency is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many, many more use. So this is from the early days. I wrote the first white paper to do documentation management with blockchain in 2013, 14, something like that. So, and then since then, I have been working into this.
Yeah, it's very very interesting. Can you tell us what particular applications and what particular uses do you foresee for blockchain in the next, say, 10 years?
Yeah, blockchain is made by different elements. So there is the peer-to-peer network. There is a very strong use of cryptography. There is a set of rules, what is called a protocol, so something that make it compatible, and and the storage of data pretty much. So each of these aspects has its own a very good set of use cases, and combine some of them make other. All combined is the classic blockchain, but it doesn't have to have the idea of the distributed ledger that people have in terms of blockchain. Blockchain can be a tool to make sure that the data sent and received by another party or by many are respecting some rule. That's the classic thing. So when I lecture blockchain at the university, we make the example of playing tic-tac-toe or playing chess using the concept of blockchain. So the rules in Bitcoin, the rule is that I cannot send you one Bitcoin if I don't have it. Okay, so that's the key. What is not tangible by mathematics, because the signature, the validity of my transaction, and all this is a set part of the basics, let's say, to make it valid. But the rules that are above, because I could change, make a parallel blockchain of Bitcoin that let me send Bitcoin if I don't have them. It's just a rule. It's not that something that would not work, you know. So these rules, I can change them and put the rules of chess. So rather than people sending Bitcoin to each other, people send move the horse from this to this. Can do it, yes or no, as the transaction is rejected. So following this logic, you can imagine the possibility to have a network that could be similar to the phone network, where we send a phone call, you are guaranteed that the kind of data that transit through it are secure, are following the rules that are set. So that's one important aspect. Plus, the biggest revolution that blockchain has brought to us is in the digital world. In this evolution we are living, there is the digital era that we are in. Everything could be copied and pasted identical to the original, because in bit and bytes There is no degradation in making a copy. So before, when we had the cassette tapes, when you copy something, the copy is not as good as the original, right? So having an original was important. In the digital world, the original has lost value because the copy is identical to the original. But with blockchain, I can still have an original to resell. That's why the NFT became very important, not because of the monkey that is not, but the fact that I have something completely digital that I can show ownership. I can sell to somebody else, in the moment that I sell it, I don't have it anymore. Yet it's digital, so I cannot do a copy and paste. And this is something that seems obvious, but it's not so obvious. So in this case, I can put the title of ownership of my car as an NFT. So when I sell the car to somebody, just transfer the ownership of the NFT, and anybody can verify that the car belongs to this other person at this point. It can be my driver license as a document, my identity, coming to cryptographic signature. I can sign a document, I can fill in the data that need to respect a particular format. So make the example, I go to the doctor to get a health certificate, I go to the gym to register at the gym, and they can verify that the doctor, the sign has been guaranteed as a doctor by the government, so there is no tampering document, photoshopping fake documents, and so on and so forth. So it gives a high level of guarantee of transactions. Data, so remove the need to trust that something is good, it mathematically. So you can think the application it has. Many governments, many years already, they use a land registry on blockchain because in terms of corruption, some farmers were finding that their land was not their own anymore because, somebody at the registry put in the name of their cousin because it's just a signature in a piece of paper. There is no a proceed that guarantee the part. So there are a lot of use cases that are very interesting, and that's my job practically. So from the warranty of a piece of clothing to the specific to rebuild a particular plastic object that like a pipe, or to follow part in machinery that is distributed around the world, to have an audit of all the repairs that he has done. There are a lot of very interesting use cases because it's an open system where everybody can onboard. So it's bottom up. You don't need to ask permission in terms of, be signing a contract or something like that. So just a QR code, mobile application, or, like a web page, and people can participate. So that's pretty powerful. As soon as culturally we understand the value of having something of such a level open for the people to use, more adopting is going to be done. Now that the bubble is deflating, is a good moment for real project to start, and not just funny stuff or raising funds with no actual deliverables.
Yeah, that's a lot of those applications are very interesting for sure. I do know that the barrier for entry has been rather high, to different, coders, you have to know how to code. There are a few services I think that's awesome where they allow you to send messages and store messages in basic websites actually on Bitcoin. So I do know that they're trying to make it easier for the public to actually use it now. Is there anything that you're working on right now that is aligned with this, or what are you working on?
So I'm participating in several businesses. One very interesting is a company that does collateral for flight simulators. So in the world of flight simulation, it's something I didn't know. I thought there were 1 in a million people just spending the day in front of the computer flying airplanes, but it's actually it's a niche, but it's huge. Microsoft celebrated a couple of years ago 10 million of active pilots. Microsoft has one of the best, but it's just one of several flight simulators. There's a lot of people there. And these people love the idea to simulate the reality. And when it comes to flight simulator, all the things about the airplane graphics, there is things that you see the video, you don't know if it's for real or if it's the simulator, so good it is. So we added the financial world to it. So using the idea with blockchain of NFTs, but the concept that can be brought in a central server, it doesn't matter, but the concept is that people can actually have a license to fly, like a pilot license, which more hours they fly, more it grows of level, and it creates a revenue. Because flying an airplane with a simulator is not a game, meaning that a game, I call a game something that I can sit there and play. That if you don't know what switch to turn off, how to move, you don't go anywhere. If I sit in front of a simulator, I remain sitting there because I don't know what to do to fly. So the guarantee that the token created by pilots flying an airplane are actually the fruit of work. It's like a salary paid to somebody doing the work. So the scarcity of this token is given just by the fact that it can only be created by pilots that fly. There is no other way to generate this token. So once you can use this token to buy an airplane virtually, and or an airport, or participate to particular missions, or to fix the asphalt of the runway, whatever, it creates an economy that is internal, but all in the hand of the people, because being free means that somebody have this token in the blockchain and they can sell to somebody else all outside the website, because the power of the use of blockchain, this Web3 word that they call, is the fact that you have an identity that follows you around the web. While with Web 2, you have a lot of username and password different for each website that you go. So you have a different identity for each place that you go. With Web 3, you can have the same identity among different websites. In the world of video games, for example, if you buy a sword in a game, you still have the sword with you when you go to another game. If it's compatible, you can use it there as well. And if something happened to you there and is attached to your identity, when you go to another place, maybe you got energy is low, whatever, you're gonna see this in the other place. Because thanks to blockchain, to this underlying platform, there is many can connect and attach to your ID some information the other can read. And this is a very powerful commercially. For example, a large important jewelry company, which I don't name, made it so they made a special piece of jewelry that can be purchased only by people that own a certain kind of NFT. How they can do that? Because they didn't generate NFT or something else, so they have no control about NFT. But at the checkout in the shop, you can connect your crypto wallet, and if in the crypto wallet there is that NFT, you can check out and purchase the jewel. If you don't have it, you cannot. You need to have somebody transfer to you. So this is powerful to make understand how something external to the jewelry shop can be an item that determine the validity for an action. And this is something that didn't exist before, right? So I can say only some, if somebody flag you as the correct person to do something, then you can do this operation. So I can delegate to third party without a written contract, without, connectivity or API keys of the two systems, but just leaving it as a data that is written in the blockchain. You were talking about messaging with blockchain. One amazing thing about this is that if you think about emails or SMS or instant messaging, they are always point to point. So I send my email to you. You forward to somebody else. You are not forwarding my email. You are sending a copy of my email to this other person, right? And with the message of any other kind, is the same thing. With messages through the centralized system, I create the message that is in the centralized system as a unique ID. I send you the ID for you to go read and decrypt if I want to keep it private. But you are going to read the one that I created. If you forward to somebody else, you're not forwarding a copy. You're just giving indication to this third party how to see the original message, which is signed by me, stored in a particular point in time. This is a much higher value in terms of collecting an history of discussion or messaging. Think about in the world of finance, if I transfer some funds from my bank account in a different currency to somebody else in another bank account, there are like at least 5-6 messages that are traveling between the two banks, the banks that is above them. They are completely separated. They're not attached together with the request of the transfer of the money. So it's a little bit messy. With the use of blockchain, you're going to have a single message where 5 parties can participate and see the authenticity of all the messages attached, which is very important.
Yeah, that's a lot of different use cases for sure. I think I've heard about the bank transfers. I've been using it for a little while now. They've been using, I think it was Ripple, to send those messages back and forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually were there when this thing were happening. I've been doing a lot of work for financial institution between Singapore and Southeast Asia, and Ripple was one of the competitors that we were working against. But yes, that's correct. Ripple was one of those, in some use
Yeah.
cases that we were working with.
Yeah, there was, I think when I was doing some research before, there was a little bit of concern about Ripple though, because it was highly centralized. Is that correct?
I'm not going to talk about this, but I think I am one of the people that raise a lot of these concerns, not only as guaranteed of real decentralization, but also as weak choices in security that were specific to some project. But at the end of the day, it takes an evolution to arrive to a certain level of quality. So probably some paths are forced. It is interesting how some choices are made by how the salesperson dress up more than the quality of the product attached behind the salesperson, right? But that's a common aspect in many industries, right?
A little bit before the show, we sort of touched on artificial intelligence, and how do you see artificial intelligence playing into the blockchain?
I did work several years ago before artificial intelligence was something, because it was machine learning has been used in marketing in strange ways. Sometimes you enter a shopping mall and there are these advertising board with a monitor, and they show an advertisement that is very related to you because there is a small camera that is biometric. They have a huge database, and the selection of the advertisement you see is related to what you spend with your credit card in the past months and crazy things. And the collection of this data, the analysis of the data, and the capacity to customize the offering to a specific person was done using AI. So I'm talking about 7 years ago, circa. I started doing this project in which for training models in AI was creating, I think one of the first concept of synthetic data, even we didn't call it synthetic data, but creating a peer-to-peer network where every node was running a model that was producing result, and all the results were using to train a model, the one then was becoming part of the network. So in making it self-growing, if you want, using all the data that this marketing company was collecting for targeting advertisement in a very something in Europe you cannot do, is illegal, but in many other countries is legal. Europe protects the consumer a lot under certain aspect compared to other countries, so it is something interesting. So at the damage of the evolution of the technology, because many times you cannot do certain things, not because technology cannot do it, but because the regulator forbid the use of those things. So, and AI and blockchain work well together in many aspects. I think in the future, part of the protocol of a blockchain can use AI to make a verification for security, to see if somebody is playing the system, which is called the 51% attack, can be mitigated much better with the use of AI in a distributed peer-to-peer network. At the same time, I believe that AI needs to be decentralized. Now all the AI model we use are in the hand of a few people, and this is not a good thing. So we need to have a peer-to-peer network where an AI, the synapses of the AI are done by the peer-to-peer network as if it was a large brain, really. And then the results are really democratized by the way that each node is trained.
Okay, yeah, and so a lot of the time, and for a lot of things, we're using AI to generate content. We're using AI to generate images. So, do you foresee a future where you were talking before about how they have these NFTs and they have these verifications? So, do you foresee AI integrated into blockchain and then being authenticated that way?
I mean, AI become another ingredient for recipes that you can do with various ingredients. I think there are a lot of very interesting adoption of AI in terms of how and what you can do when you use it. What is important is not to rely too much, but to have always an external container, let's say an external set of verification, and use AI as of today at least. I mean, I wouldn't rely 100% on AI on something. Okay, I would just use AI to get back a much better quality result or analysis of some data, but then I would have a more old style structure infrastructure around it to validate what AI comes out with, right? I mean, they hallucinate AI, so it's really, I wouldn't put a drone with a gun 100% managed by AI. I don't know what it can happen.
So that's very true. So if someone were to want to learn about blockchain, I mean, it's a fairly, from what I understand, it's a fairly steep learning curve for many people. They have a few different places where you can sort of interact in a visual way. Where would you recommend someone to start learning about blockchain if they want to learn?
There is plenty of material in the internet, YouTube's videos, presentation. So it depends on what corner somebody would love to learn about blockchain, more on the business aspect, more on the technical aspect, on the use case aspect, and is evolving day by day. So there is always something new that is being added. I give for free a book that I wrote, which is in Amazon if somebody wants to spend the money for an hard copy, but the PDF is 260 pages, very beautiful, and we can share the link later in the description of the video. And this is interesting because it describes the different aspects of a blockchain, the vulnerabilities, the weakness, what should be done to make it better. So is an evergreen, meaning that it stays outside the age of the evolution of the technology of the blockchain, but it's a good way to reason around it. It's a book that we wrote while working on a new layer one that is potentially solving some of these issues, but even ignoring that aspect, he has all the overview of all the different way to make a blockchain possible, which is an interesting book. A little bit technical though.
Well, I mean, that's why we have AI. We can get the book and we can say, hey, make
Tell
it,
me.
explain this like you would explain it to a 5-year-old, and then we'll be okay. So, in terms of the future of blockchain technology, where do you see it being used in terms of security? You mentioned SMS and telephone messages. I actually just got a couple of phone calls from people spoofing phone numbers of legitimate companies, right? And then this is only possible because there are certain companies that allow you to put the metadata into that information. So you foresee them being able to do that with blockchain?
Okay. The fact that you see when spoofing for numbers or nice, they arrive from a number that is not the actual originators, as much as emails, the people spoof emails, is because the protocols for email, for SAM, or the various, they need to be backwards compatible, and they are old. They are very bad, very, very bad, designed in a moment that security wasn't an issue, and I think the email protocol is the most horrible protocol in the planet. And it would made sense a little bit when at the beginning of the email history, each house or office had their own mail server. So when you were sending an email to somebody else in the past, it was from your computer through your Wi-Fi at home to the mail server or the office. Then from your mail server to the mail server of the recipient, and then from the mail server to their computer. So it was the message that is in clear, is not encrypted. Everybody can see, everybody can modify it if they have one mail server in between. So that's why it was going from my home to his home. And, we're guaranteed that it's only us. But now the email for businesses of any sort are all in the hand of a few companies. Google there's all the email of the world, beautiful functionality, but we rely on the trust that the security certificate is valid, that nobody is a man in the middle between us and the mail server. Because one of the biggest scams that there is on people that can access email to modify them, business, is the fact that the legitimate email asking a payment for the work that actually happened, the only difference is the bank account number change. So people remit a payment for something that they know they need to pay, but the money goes to some criminals that take the money and go. And this is because emails, nobody use PGP. PGP is pretty good cryptography for signing an email. So if it's modified, it comes out that it's not good anymore. And we rely in just a few vendors to manage all our emails. So email was a decentralized federated network, not peer-to-peer federated, but is anyway distributed network. And now it's centralized in the hand of a few. Many other things goes through the same way. As a kid, I was doing phone hacking. I mean, without doing crimes, yeah, but just finding strange things the phone system can do. Mostly because the password of the main server were the one default by factory. So nobody would even change them. So once you have a manual of one of the Ericsson, phone systems, you can, with multi-frequency, you can do what you want at the time. No, nowadays I don't know because, I'm talking about 35, 40 years ago. Yeah. But remains the fact that protocols are super old and very easy to hack. Blockchain is something new, is designed differently, so it's not affected by that. In fact, I'm shocked that many banks use just an SMS to allow you to access some, important, because that can be intercepted very easily, can be spoofed, so somebody can easily. But even setting up in a cell phone, there are a lot of things for which a cryptographic signature would solve a lot of problems, like the classic token device that we have at the bank, the one that it gives you a number, you enter, it gives a response. That's exactly the same things like signing a Bitcoin transaction. It's a cryptographic signature done with much less numbers in the token compared to the longer string for crypto, but that's the safest things because it cannot be intercepted. So, unless you hack the bank server, So the technology is there. Sometimes people evaluate what is the result. They just look at the functionality. They don't look at the security behind it because there is a lot of illiteracy in this field. And doing things that don't bring an effect immediately are procrastinate. Yeah, the security, what are we gonna do? At the moment, everything works okay, until the drama comes out. We saw so many, drama. Look what happened with the security system that people with Microsoft was using a few days ago. Airports blocked, people cannot fly, disaster. Is out of any sane mind to have half of the planet, important infrastructure, all connected to a single vendor. But you understand what it means? This has been an issue, but if there was a bad person in there, he has the power to inject in millions of computers of important infrastructure, malware, spyware. This is just not normal. So why things like that happen? Because if a company hires somebody like me and telling them this is a bad idea, they don't want, company hire consultants just to hear what they want to hear and not to hear what is actually important, for them to hear and actually take action on. And then you have this sort of result. So this long talk, sorry, and I apologize, to answer your question about security and, spoofing of emails, spoofing of phone number compared to the use of a blockchain and other tools. Blockchain is something, a newer technology, so it's designed with more consciousness and is a new protocol that doesn't need to go backward compatible, but it's still suffering about this evolution, like a protocol behind Ethereum that tried to mature protocols and go ahead, going from proof of work to proof of stake and so on and so forth. Is because the blockchain is a living animal, like a phone system. You cannot radically make a change, else it's not working. You need to always be compatible with the one that didn't advance. And emails, same thing. If I make completely different kind of email, it's gonna be sent only between people that's the new system. The old system is cut off, and so it's not gonna work. It's not gonna sell. So you need to still comply to a protocol that is old and not working. So that's a big issue that there is in the world of IT, but yeah, still there.
So And one of the aspects that I know that I was curious about, especially when you talk about security and the fact of blockchain, um, you're not able to go back and change record. One of the big things that I think it was that those companies were saying, you couldn't get a charge back, you couldn't get that. But then on the other side, on the consumer side, how do you get your money back from
No, but okay, so that is an important thing. Is all based on how the protocol is programmed. Okay, because I want to make an analogy. If you think about coding computers, right? In the past, I mean, like I'm 50 years old. I know I look 20, but I'm 50. So when I start coding, um, there was the computer and your code. There was nothing else in between you and the processor. Okay. Then start the operating system. Already MS-DOS is something that goes between the developer and the operating system. Okay. But not much. Okay. When you evolve, I give you a very classic example. If I make an application, Windows or Macintosh, okay, in my application, you want to copy and paste some text. Me as a developer, I don't have to develop all the logic of the copy and the paste because those come from the operating system. So is automatically embedded in my application. And this is a basic example, but there are millions of other layers of things that I don't have to do as developer because already there. When programming website and other things, they made the coding so simple because they add a layer and layer and layer of platform that the developer has no idea what happened between his code and the processor of the server. And if there is a vulnerability in one of those layers, you can be the best developer of the world. You have no control over the vulnerability in the operating system, the vulnerability in the platform that you use to make the application, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, there is no developer capable to code something at the bottom layer, low level kind of coding, okay? Everybody codes a high level. With blockchain, also with IoT, I had a big hope that coming this new technology, now people need to go again down bottom level. Ethereum did something amazing and horrible at the same time. The Ethereum virtual machine and the smart contracts have created a platform where all the developers that wanted to move from the classic development into the decentralized world of blockchain, they land in this platform that is the smart contract. And the smart contract is way high level compared to what is the protocol of the blockchain on the bottom layers, okay? And they follow some set of functionality that they don't even know how they are coded. And they need to respect a lot of other layers that are below in the blockchain. If you do code the protocol starting from the bottom, you realize that a lot of the misconceptions that there are about blockchain are there just because of how certain blockchain has been coded. There were, like a conference, somebody says, in a blockchain, there can be maximum 21 million tokens. Now, this is Bitcoin with the rules of Bitcoin. Like Ethereum had no limit on the tokens that you can create. So this is depending on how you code something. If I want to make it possible for the transaction to be canceled in 24 hours after I submitted it, because I can submit a cancel request where the receiving party can say, no, I cancel only half. I don't know, like whatever fantasy we want to think about. This can be encoded in the way that the blockchain works. The fact that we say you cannot change the past data, what is true is that you cannot change the history of transactions sent. So if I have a particular server and I record all the transaction requests sent in the peer-to-peer network, I have an audit of everything that is being recorded. But the blockchain itself can keep only the current state of things. It doesn't need to save all the transactions. That's why I'm saying it's not a ledger. It's just something that does execute instruction based on rules that allow her not to do this instruction, nothing else. So I can have, I don't know, I do silly example. Everybody bought a 3D printer which is collecting dust in a corner of the house. Okay, let's make the blockchain for printing 3D stuff. I don't know. And I connect my computer to the printer. I have the node of this blockchain. I send the model to be printed. I choose to print 100 pieces. This is an idea that cannot be implemented in reality, but just to give you an idea, right? My transaction contained the model, 100 account are chosen by priority, whatever things, they print it in their own computer, and then they ship it to you, and you have 100 items printed in very fast, because in parallel you print. Does this thing need to save memory, all the model? No. It's just a functionality that guarantees that if the model I submit is not correct, it's not going to print. If I don't add the money value, is not, it's just rules, and rules that people is guaranteed they're being respected, else transaction is bouncing back. How the rules are built, fantasy of the person. We made blockchain to manage ownership of racehorses, and racehorses follow different legislation in different country. They have different phases in life. When even before is born, a horse costs money, because you need to find the stallion and the mare. You need to get them to have the baby, then the veterinary, then you start competing. After you finish competing, you have hundreds of different specific case rules, and you build them as a layer one, like the basic rules. So smart contract have removed a huge amount of developer from what is really important in coding in the centralized system. That's why we are not many that can do this. But illiteracy on the other side don't understand things. The things with smart contract do what you want, which is not true, right? Visual Basic has removed developer capable or coding well a computer, because it's so easy to do it. Why should I? And people that buy software, they say, look, this guy can give it to me in a week. And then everything collapses because it's built in a way that is not strong or safe. So this is the reality of this IT world, where I code for hobby, for passion, also for need, but sometimes not as a job. I was taking a week to do something. Now in an afternoon, the same work is done, because AI gives a boost to the capacity to code that is insane. And that's a good way to use it. But asking the AI to do an application all by itself without knowing what it's doing, that would be the wrong way to use it, in my opinion.
So you're saying that the AI, you can tell AI what to do, and then it's going to take its database of code and it does the coding for you then?
Yeah, that's the incredible thing about AI is if let's say I am a developer and I use AI as a tool to develop to code better, the biggest job in a developer, the biggest waste of time, sometimes is to find a small error that you go crazy in the code, and maybe you just miss a comma somewhere. AI finds this in 1 nanosecond. Sometimes, because of the human brain working in a way that is very different from a computer, you structure the code in a certain way that makes sense to a human, but is not very optimized for a machine. AI can recode this to make it much more efficient and less. But you need to guide it piece by piece. You cannot just sit there and say, hey, make an application to do this. But you can. For example, one of the classic tests for AI is code the snake, the game Snake that we had in the Nokia cell phone. Okay, code the code snake. And the AI, most of them, the first shot of writing Python, the code, and you have the functioning game. So is able to do small application all by themselves. On the other hand, and actually, NVIDIA is creating some chips that is going to change the paradigm of how games are done. Wow. I think that the most incredible things in terms of entertainment is that in a few years, the television that we buy, if we buy the TV with AI, is the fact that I can ask my TV, I would like to watch a fantasy movie that is shot in New York with the fish that fall in love with the giraffe. I don't know, and boom, I have my movie made for me, one piece only. You know what I mean? Because there is the capacity to do that. As of today, slowly. Tomorrow, probably in real time. They were showing video games, like Minecraft. Mm-hmm. Minecraft is a game that is plotted based on a 3D world. The AI can recreate going around Minecraft without using 3D, but just guessing the next frame, how it's going to look like, which is a very strange approach if you think about it. It's like if you take somebody that can paint very well or draw very well and make them draw frame by frame an animation. This guy is not using a 3D model to make it. He's using how would you see the things frame by frame after you rotate something. And that's what the approach of AI is. If it becomes fast enough to do this in real time, I can have video game design in real time in front of my eyes based on what I do, which will be a unique experience customized on my taste. That is not what somebody else is. So this probably is gonna split people because each of us is gonna have our own planet where we fall inside that is so customized to us. But on the other hand, it's powerful if you think of the possibility and something that today takes long to do, but is already possible. And like many things, it's just evolution of the processor. We're gonna do it in a much faster manner.
No, it's certainly an exciting future. It kind of makes you wonder what humans are going to do. I mean, in the next, well, let's say 40 years, we're gonna, what, you have the jets and somebody just pushes a button to get the AI to do stuff, I guess, right?
But I would say much less than 40 years. Yeah.
Really interesting. So, Roberto, is there anything today that maybe we didn't hit on or didn't talk about that you think we should have?
Procrastination, which is the topic of your podcast, is interestingly enough, I was hidden by this thing because software developers are split in two different kind. The one that is very academic, usually is very productive during the day and follows precise rules. And this kind of people has no issue. They go at the pace that they need to go and they deliver. They are not capable to think outside the box. They're really, really locked inside their box. The other kind of developer, they're closer to an artist painting something. They work better in the night, that possibly have no school title, but they are 100 times better than the others. They all have in common the fact that they work well when deadline is tomorrow morning. I fell for this as well. I mean, like the code I've written in the 3 hour before meeting the client sometime. You wonder why this rush increase the capacity of productivity, why distractions are so much higher beforehand. But it's really a common, it's incredible what people would accept rather than face the things that you actually need to do. I usually say if there is a pile of poo that I need to move with my own hands rather than do what I am supposed to do, I go to do that because it's really like a repellent that comes out toward the things that will, just get it done and remove your concern. And because working in this field and managing developer for pretty much all my life, directly as project manager, as CTO, as CEO of the company as well, but also software houses most of the time. From the beginning that there is no matter of discussion. Developer know that they're like this. Every time they miscalculate the times, they're very optimistic. And then when is the time to deliver a crisis, nights up. So there are a lot of systems that I put in place, which I use on my own self as well, to trick me and developer I manage on fake deadlines. Like they arrive to the crisis or the urgency. Oh my God, tomorrow morning, no. People come with a solution. But so I heard the client. We have another week, which is we have another 2 months. But and I never heard the client, but it comes out to be something like this. And it's interesting because my view, procrastination is not just laziness. Is connected to perfectionism, for example. As of today, I don't have all the elements to make it very well, so I rather wait longer. There are a lot of interesting causes behind, but you are the expert for sure to tell me these things. In the world of creativity, specifically software development, he has a very interesting take, and there are not sure in my opinion, because that's how it has to be, but there are tricks to make people fall into getting more productive, even if it's not the real dead end of deadline. Sorry.
That's very interesting because when I was doing some project management myself, I did it backwards. I'd go to the developer and say, "How long is this going to take?" And then I always doubled the time before I pulled the
Oh,
plug.
classic.
But yours sounds like it might be more effective actually because you're going to the source rather than
I would do the same thing. First an analysis, and everybody says it's gonna take, I don't know, because I try to create small chunks. It's gonna take only 1 month or only two, and then make 3 times the things with the client. So you need to keep two faces, and the other says, "Okay, you said that. Why you don't finish?" Right? And then the client, that they has, it's an interesting aspect. And on the other hand, there are clients that want to be lied to. I cannot do that, but if you tell, look, it's gonna take 1 year. No, 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 no. The other company says only 6 months. But you go with the other company 6 months. 6 months later, it's not gonna be finished, and it's gonna drag for another 6 months, and everybody's unhappy. I'm telling you from the beginning is 1 year. You don't want to hear the truth. Go for that. And at the end, it's like it. But who sells? Who sells the person the lie on the deadline? Is an interesting aspect of mitigating these different approaches. So when you're in the middle with the procrastinator on one side, people that rush a result on the other and don't want to accept the reality of it. It says it takes 9 months to make a baby, but you can put 9 ladies, you cannot have a baby in 1 month. You still have 9 months to maybe have 9 babies, but it's not we add more than no. It's just the process of things takes this time. You like it or not. You don't want to check for bugs and go in production with something that is not secure, stable. You don't want to do audit. You don't want to do testing. Take the shortcut with the consequences, but don't get upset too.
Yeah, sounds like Microsoft's business model.
It's like blue screen of that. It's the normal things in computer.
Yeah, the blue screen of death for sure. That's really interesting. So, what's been the most effective for you for overcoming, procrastination, what you have to do?
It's really lie to myself in a convincing way and make me panic, because the capacity to say, "Oh, look, it's a month from now. I have all the time. Today I'm gonna do this part. Tomorrow I'm gonna." It's never gonna work. I don't think that there is. Even the quality of the result is different. The things done in a rush is so much better in terms of, but with the capacity to review it later. Meaning that with a fake dead end, with a fake, then I did it. Phew, I go sleep, but I don't have to deliver today. Then I would travel and look and I say, "Oh my God, amazing. And let me fix this, or let me fix this and that." But then, the brain enter a space. I think something like that. I had the opportunity to wait tables. When I spent a few years in the United States, and all the Italian friends I had, they have restaurants. It was a period of prosperity, talking about the Clinton time. And waiters in Florida were working, collecting some money. They had the money to go get drunk. They didn't care and didn't show up at work. So a lot of these friends at the Italian restaurant, they would let me have lunch, dinner there without ever pay. Sometimes they were calling me, "Roberto, I'm in trouble. There is nobody show up for work. Can you come and help us?" So I was going there to help. In fact, client says, "You're not a waiter, now I'm a computer programmer." Okay. But the fact that if there is only one table in a restaurant, a waiter will hardly remember the order. But if he's in a rush that there is a lot of people, you have no time to doubt. So you remember everything very well. There is no extra time to double think things. And I think that procrastinator are people that are better off when they don't allow themselves the time to doubt what they're doing. So they need to just do it because, my God, I need to do it for tomorrow morning, so I have no more time to go around. So I do it, and it comes out very well. So probably the key stays in the capacity to say, stop getting distracted, which is a difficult thing, right? When you have a brain that goes very fast, you need to keep it full all the time. In fact, if I am in a meeting if I stay without doing nothing and listening to people, I will not remember what has been told. If I scribble on a piece of paper, I do something else, I listen to something else, then I collect 100% of what the meeting is about. But people get annoyed with me, says, hey, pay attention. I'm paying attention. I need to give it to the rest of my brain something else to do. As somebody says, because there was a tree, and in my brain, the fields, and I go for a tangent because I go so much faster compared to the piece of the speech that there is in the meeting, that my brain, there's nothing else to do, takes some of this and goes in his tangent on his own. While when working is the same thing. It's funny. I have no deadline on a website. I start doing some code. Oh, there is this content. Look, content is missing. Start creating the content. To make the content, I need this inside. And you end up in something else that is miles away from the original because you have the time to go down to perfection on those things. When you have not the time, you need to make very hard choices and let go. So I think that probably a procrastinator is actually somebody that maybe there are other kinds, but the kinds that I know through software development like this is people that is excelling in something and going too fast. So you need to have the rush in order to be productive. I don't know.
No, it's funny you say that. It comes down to things like priorities too, and importance. And when a deadline's approaching, that gives it more sense of urgency. I mean, if it's it's easy to say it's a month away. Oh, I'll do this other thing. It'll take me 2 seconds, right? So there's a lot of that going on for sure as well. You mentioned distractions. What's really interesting to me, and maybe you've seen it as well, just over the years, especially with social media, we're trained to have short attention spans. We're trained. I mean, you go on TikTok. Oh, we got a 10-second video. We got a 90-second video. We got a 30-second video, and then we're going out. Or even looking at commercials. An advertisement from the 1980s was between 1 minute and 2 minutes long. Now, an advertisement is 25 seconds.
Mm.
So it's interesting. Do you think that has had a big impact in impacting how we think and how we actually interpret the world?
That's a possibility. Goldfish effect was a little bit this mechanics. I try to cut everything in small chunks. So very huge project, when assigned, usually the assignment should be something that can be done in a day. Because it's also the capacity to feel satisfied to have completed something. It's very important to move to the next things. If it become like a mountain that never stop growing, like some developer are subject to do this. No, once you do add also this and add also this and add also this, and at the end, you feel like it's never gonna arrive to an end, so you lose interest in doing it. Many small satisfaction are important. So maybe it's not all bad that is many small pills of things if we know how to manage them when we receive them. Because reading a book of 700 pages, I don't know, one Lord of the Rings of sort or something, it really needs you to fall into the story. And then we tend not to fall asleep anymore because we want to keep reading, because we need to keep absorbing. Like when I was a kid, there was television. There was not even a VCR as a concept. Now with Netflix, I start a series and I don't go sleep anymore until I finish the whole series. So it's harder to say stop because then it takes something special to go back into it after you detach. So maybe it is what we lost. We lost the capacity to go back into something. So you are in, you detach, you go back in. This is something they should teach kids in school better, how to go back into a mechanic, because having this ability maybe will solve a lot of things. Having our time to go into something, even coding. My brain changes so much when I start coding. If somebody come and disturb me, it takes me so long to go back into the mood that sometimes says, okay, forget it, or I'm gonna work when nobody can disturb me between midnight and 5 a.m. Something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a very big topic and very interesting, and just how we all interact and how we can actually schedule things to make things get done. But you're right, it does need to start with in school and just to see how we can get better things to more focus. That's what it is, more focus, and getting refocused. Because like you said, it is actually, there are studies where when you're working on something, if you switch gears dramatically, like if you're coding and you all of a sudden need to shift your attention to something like writing a letter or writing an email, it can actually detract you for anywhere from 1 hour to 4 hours.
Yes, I agree.
So it's I mean, it's a big thing. I'm sure you've run into it in your own experiences, right?
But even reading, simple thing like reading a book. I'm reading the book. Somebody disturbed me. I need to start one page earlier because I need to get into the things. Sometime I finish reading that I am 5 pages behind where I was before when I start reading, right? It is really the capacity to not lose, what you say, focus. Probably if we want to structure our brain, we need to have a drawer where things are intact to the point that we're there. But we have so much more information in our head today that there was an average person 40 years ago, maybe, that is more difficult to get to the exact point of something. Like if I have 10 topics in my head during my life, an average, because there is the work, one thing, the family, one thing, the book I'm reading is one, I can go back to the one very easy. But if I have 500 because of a lot of small bills that I get in social media, interaction, emails, millions of things, then going back to one and having a very good means of where I was with the thing in order to continue, it's difficult. But AI can help us a lot with this. That's another tools. The AI is gonna make humans superhumans. With our own personal AI assistant that tell us, okay, look, you were doing this work, you were at this point, that is what you were doing, this is what you need to continue to do. Can you imagine to have this small person on your shoulder that is helping you? Look at this person we're meeting. His birthday is next week, and something like that. That would be amazing. It would make it look like we are amazing. Think with birthdays. Now you wish happy birthday to all the people that you don't even know because Facebook is gonna remember you, right? And remove Facebook, nobody has birthdays anymore. So we are empowered by this, and AI is gonna do a lot of this. More will become dumbed down by society, idiocracy style, if you want. More AI compensate for this. Dumbing down that we're subject to, I guess.
No, that's very true. I mean, I know I get it all the time. And I always say, if you want to know who your real friends are, make a group private on Facebook.
Or change it to a fake data. It would be a very sad realization that nobody is your real friend. Not even your mom would remember the correct date.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Anyway, that's
Okay.
all the time we have for today, Roberto. It was a very good discussion. Before we go, how can our listeners get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you and
All right. So a very short URL to get to my website is rcx.it. IT like Italy or IT like information technology, if you want. RCX is Roberto Capo X is the numeral 10 Roman. DH in Italian means 10. So rcx.it, very short, so that there is a section for books and there is also the link to download the book. Easy. Or in LinkedIn, classiclinkedin.com/in rc10. So that's my URL for LinkedIn. Very simple, but I'm gonna share the links with you. Then we can put it in the description of the podcast.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time and today, Roberto. It was a very good conversation. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and tune in again next time for more stories and information and motivation and inspiration. And if you can't find that motivation or inspiration, then be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. All right, we'll see you again soon.